And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Traveling up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FTE off. Bring in FTE off. It's orange!
Orange 45! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.
Hello and welcome to the Booster 12 rollback stream. The booster is on its way back from the launch site to the production site after a static fire yesterday. I am D-Wise and I am your host, but I am not doing this alone. With me today, I have Jack. How's it going, Jack?
It's going, just like Booster 12 is going back to the launch site for final launch preps.
Absolutely. And we also have Ryan Weber. How are you doing, Ryan?
I'm doing great, D. How you doing? Yeah, it's fun to Booster 12 roll back. Well, one step closer to Flight 5. Let's go.
Absolutely, and I am doing great. I see all of your 5x5s in chat. Thank you all for tuning in. So Booster 12 left the launch site just moments ago, and it's on its way. Can you talk about what you saw yesterday, Jack?
I mean, yeah, the static fire looked really good. Everything was nice and clean. Started a little bit later than we expected. It might have just been some tank farm glitchiness, but yeah, by all accounts, a good static fire from Booster 12. Also, we talked about a little bit on the stream, speculating as to whether or not we would get a SpaceX tweet of confirmation of the test. And boy, did we ever. There's 3 separate drone videos in that one tweet that they put out afterwards. And dare I say, I think those are my favorite static fire shots of all time. I mean, they're awesome. So yeah, good day yesterday for booster testing.
Absolutely. Those were some gorgeous shots. And I can't forget about operating behind the scenes. We have Jay Keegan. Thank you for pushing all the buttons and pulling all those levers. So first up, I mean, this is not the only thing happening at Starbase today. We also saw some stacking of the tower. So they've been making a lot of progress with their second launch tower. Were you out there today to see that?
I got there right after they had put it down, but I know Sean was out there shooting it. My question, because it's seemingly happening so fast, is Ryan, because I'm sure this is like a Ryan question. Is this going way faster than Tower 1, or is that just in my head?
It is. It took a little bit to get started because they were having alignment issues, as we saw, but they're going a little fast. I would not be surprised if like Tower Segment 3 rolled out tonight. To be honest with you, they're gonna want to get this thing stacked within like month and a half. I think it was the timeline. They'll have to lay down the crane and reconfigure it after Section 6. But once that's completed, I mean, they can, I would not be surprised to see the chopstick and carriage arms and whatnot on the pad by like October, or maybe actually late September at this point. So they're rolling along.
Yeah, they are making a lot of progress very quickly. If you have any questions for us, go ahead and at NASASpaceflight in the chat so that we can talk about it. And we also have some support here from RC Horseman gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you so much always see your name in chat. Now, they are making a lot of progress with that tower, but what about with the ship and the booster itself? Of course, we have Flight 5 with Ship 30 and Booster 12. How are those looking flight-wise? What sort of things do we know that they have to do before they're actually ready for flight?
Yeah, so basically for Ship 30, they still got to finish up the heat shield. They're pretty far along though. Last I looked, like most of the flaps are pretty much almost done at this point. I think tank section's pretty much done. I think it's a lot of like dotting your I's, crossing your T's in places, and they just got to do a lot of little tiles here and there. I wouldn't be surprised if that thing is ready to roll out. Give it 2 weeks maybe. Now the question is where will it roll out to? It's not going to go to the launch site right away. It's going to go to Masseys because for those of you who remember, it got a new RVAC engine. So
Yeah, did that happen while I was on vacation / workcation?
that happened. That RVAC swap happened during Tim's tour, like right around it.
Okay.
Like 378 for 390. 390 is the new one in there. That's gonna need a spin prime, at least.
Nice.
So.
I can't wait till we see another static fire from Masseys. It's quite an interesting place to see static fires. You can get some good views. Deep, didn't you see 26's static fire at Masseys?
I sure did. I got to see the best ship, static fire at Masseys. Meanwhile, you were out on the water, which I might say, I think that's a slightly cooler view, but the view just from the road where I was absolutely gorgeous. Are you thinking of any other cool views of a ship static fire out there?
Yeah, we'll see. Nothing to discuss yet, but yeah, being on the Rio for it was cool, but at the same time, in like as a way to film, it was pretty difficult just because boat, water, moving.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you were on terra firma for that.
Yeah, it was definitely good to have my feet on solid ground. Now, I find this a really interesting question. We might think of this as like the last potentially rollback of Booster 12, but I mean, if all goes well, it definitely wouldn't be the last rollback because after a successful catch, they would want to roll it back to the production site, wouldn't they?
Yeah, presumably. And you know what? I've learned over the months and years to not ever say this is the last rollback because you never know
Yep.
how you're going to be jinxing things.
Or-
So
This has got to be the last stack, right? Second to last stack.
right,
Really?
just one more stack, man. Come on, that's all we need is just one more stack, man.
The
They just need
infamous
booster on the transport stand one more time.
right. What was it? The infamous Alex final D stack, the 8th and final D stack of ship 25 and booster 9 after the hot stage.
Did it stop?
It doesn't seem to be moving too quickly right now.
No, it's still going. We're going a little slow.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's
You're
gone.
right. You're right.
It's
Yeah.
just a slow moving transporter. Now, a really important question here from Kevin Michael Reed. Why is Ship 26 the best ship? It's unique. It's special.
It's not. Everybody hates it.
What can I ask in just general? I mean, other than the fact that it doesn't have any flaps or tiles, what is unique about it?
It's
I got
got
to see it static fire while I was in Boca.
so you're biased. So you're biased.
I am
is what you're saying.
absolutely biased, and I am shamelessly biased about that.
That's fair. You know what? That's fair. To answer your question, Ryan, it's got a lot of stringers, a lot of extra reinforcement for some reason. That's
Yeah,
maybe
it does. It has a lot of those external stringers. I'm just gonna go with this spoiler alert. Ship already has external stringers on it. A lot of them are just covered with a plate. There's nothing of that size though, but there's also that chance that the next version of Starship will actually have some larger ones as well, and more stringers because they just keep adding more and more weight to the vehicles. It's getting a little sad. I think it stopped. Yeah, it stopped like right at Hoppy.
It's okay. First off, no, and and second off, is it actually? It's hard to tell if it's actually stopped or if the road there is just like moving. No, I think you're right. I think it's actually stopped.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
was gonna-
slow sometimes, and with the certain angles, it can be hard to tell.
Right.
Now,
you pay for like. Oh, sorry, Dean. Go ahead.
no, go right ahead.
I was gonna say for like Booster 12, in terms of getting ready for flight, I mean, this is gonna be a rollback, final checkouts, things like that. It'll obviously get its hot stage ring. It'll be crowned. Other than that, there really isn't much else it's gonna do. It'll probably just stay in the bay until 30 is ready to go to the launch site, and then they'll just stack and probably do another wet dress. I think they're still in that state at this point. I think they'll get out of that once we started getting to version Block 2 stuff. I say Block 2 sounds better than version 2. Maybe that's just me. But this also might not be the last rollback because they may roll it out, launch it, and then assuming it catches and assuming it goes well, they'll probably roll it back and tear into it and see what it looks like after a flight. So
Now, when will that flight be? I don't think we have a very solid date yet for when SpaceX may be targeting, do we?
I mean, I think it was I think it was a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. I don't even remember at this point. That Elon had said 4 weeks away. I still don't think we're even at that point. It could be a month from now. It could be mid-August, end of August. It could be middle or beginning of September, I should say. It really depends on how quickly they put the finishing touches on 30. They get it to Masseys tested, and whether or not 30 needs to go back to the production site after getting tested at Masseys. There's a chance that once after tested at Masseys, Booster 12 rolls out, and then 30 rolls from Masseys to the launch site, which it wouldn't be the first ship to do that. Ship 25 did that.
That would be cool.
That would be it's like a 3. It's like a 2.5, 3 hour roll or something along those lines is how long it was. So
Don't get stuck on the beach during that.
yeah.
Now, one of the unique things now that we've switched over to Masseys for that testing is like Ship 26 will be potentially the only one to go to fire on both the suborbital pad and at Masseys.
Well, yeah, because that's
26 did,
not
right?
true. 26 did. But if 30 does test at Masseys, 30 will also be in that ring because remember 30 did test on the suborbital pad B, and if you remember, they wasted no time before it was 30 minutes after they took 30 off, they started cutting up pad B. That was kind of funny to see. So
right.
Yeah, it's pretty wild still seeing the launch site without the suborbital side. Like they removed the whole berm and all the dirt. It's just flat now. It's just flat. Like there's all kinds of new angles where you can see Starhopper way better. All kinds of. It's dramatic how much they've changed the suborbital side in such little time.
That large mound, if we all remember all the way back to 2018, 2019, the mound that they built the suborbital site on, along with Pad A, they're currently digging all that dirt up, and it's all going to basically become a new pad. Probably the new tank farm whenever they get around to actually building that tank farm. But for now, they're just going to hook into the Pad A farm, probably with its own subcoolers or pumps. So
now we have some support here. Thank you to Priscilla Thompson for becoming a Padrat member. And Fendragon, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. And then Max Peck with a 10 Canadian dollar super chat. Jack, given the condition of Highway 4, will SpaceX upgrade or widen the road or develop more routes? Now, I think we've learned a little bit potentially about upgrades coming to Highway 4, and then a PS, your bacon delivery is delayed until D posts the bacon cooking episode.
Oh no! We do need to figure out in all your copious free time, D.
Yeah.
The highlights. I get asked about the bacon stream. I think more than anything, like I get DMs about it still.
I mean, even just from what was streamed, we have like what, 20 hours, 22 hours of content at least. There's over a day of content there.
That was a lot. Yeah, wasn't there a recent comment from Kathy about widening Highway 4 or something? I don't know. I've been relatively disconnected as I've been in New Zealand for the last couple weeks. Ryan?
They've talked about it. It was a little while back. Kathy had talked about. Well, they talked about multiple different ways. They talked about building their own road, which presents a whole slew of problems because, environmentally speaking, you're going through wetlands, and we'll have fun with that one. We'll have fun with the paperwork there. But the other part is widening Highway 4, and that has to be worked with the Texas Department of Transportation as well as Cameron County. So there's a lot of bureaucracy and paperwork to go through, and the realization is it worth it to do it? Is it not worth it?
Yes, it's worth it. Speaking as somebody who drives the road multiple times every day, yes, it's so worth it. I think I was talking to Anthony from Rocket Ranch, and he was saying there's an eventuality where they need to make it a 4-lane road instead of a 2-lane road once they hit some amount of cars per day. I think it was like they're at 8,000 a day right now. Once they hit 10, it's kind of they sort of have to do it. I don't know. I'm fuzzy on the details, so don't quote me on any of that. But I welcome the future where Highway 4 is potentially 4 lanes instead of 2. I mean, good God, that'd be so nice.
And
even I'll take 2 lanes as long as it's not pothole central.
I was about to say, I will take 2 working lanes that you can drive in rather than having to drive in the shoulder to avoid blowing a tire out. Now,
yeah, for real.
With Booster 12 on its way back, what sort of operations can we expect to see them do? Will they be inspecting the engines or what?
Well, okay. Wording is important. What can we expect to see them do? Maybe not that much because the stupid Mega Bay has a door on it now. And the stupid Star Factory's in the way. Ask me how I really feel. But yeah, I think engine inspections are a given. Any additional work that needs to get done before flight, like of course installing the hot stage ring and any sort of integration that needs to take place to facilitate that. But yeah, beyond that, hard to say. I mean, surely there's additional things that they need to or want to do to the booster that they can do post static fire. But thanks to that door, we might not see a lot of it.
Yeah, the other part of that is where they'll put Booster 12. So right now, there's only one open work stand, which is the work stand that it was on for, I don't know. It's like a solid 4 or 5 months. That's the back left work stand looking at the Mega Bay entrance. And as Jack knows, even when the door is open, unless you want to walk all the way out into the flats, you can't really get any angle shot on that. So it's always hard to tell what a booster is doing in that corner. They'll put it in there, they'll do their thing, and, well, when it's ready, they'll roll back out again. So.
Now, there, of course, with Flight 5, potentially the big thing we would see would be the catch. So if they do opt to go for a catch, would we expect it to take longer for them to get to flight approval-wise? Do we think they could get back to flight faster if they went for like a more similar profile to IFT to Flight 4?
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit ago about when we expect Flight 5 to happen. I, at this point, am thinking September. I think hardware readiness by early August is completely plausible. I'm saying September because if they do, in fact, go for a catch on Flight 5, then the regulatory side is going to be the long pole. So right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but their license with the FAA for Flight 4 covered additional launches with the same profiles. So if SpaceX did not want to go for a catch on Flight 5, they could fly as soon as they have hardware readiness. They could just roll everything out and launch it. But if as soon as they change that profile, any amount, especially including, a huge amount, which would be catching a booster, that's when they need to go back to the FAA and I don't know if renegotiate is the right word, but get recertified or relicensed for that additional operation as compared to previous flights. So yeah, I feel like I've been banging this drum for a little while now. I guess since the last flight, to where, yeah, if they were actually going for a catch, there's going to be somewhat of a drawn out discussion, if you will, with the FAA in order to get that approved. And you know what? I want to see a catch real bad, but also this is an insanely huge skyscraper-sized, 9-meter wide rocket hurtling back from the atmosphere at supersonic speeds. Like let's dot our T's and cross our I's and make sure everything is copacetic with that before we attempt it. I don't know, Ryan. What do you think?
Yeah, it's like you said, the license kind of sets up for the same flight profile as Flight 4 going forward. So SpaceX, in theory, could have flown this one and just done the same kind of a splashdown of the Gulf. They kind of set themselves up for that in case Booster 11 wasn't actually that accurate, and they just wanted to quickly try again once their vehicles were ready. Unfortunately, if they want to actually go for a catch, it's going to need to be obviously updated, as Jack was saying. They're going to have a modification saying that, including a possible splashdown in the water splashdown in the Gulf or splashdown in the ocean. There's also a return to launch site with a catch / landing kind of thing. I'm kind of curious how the FAA is gonna look at it, because the more and more I've looked at this landing profile, I don't think they have that good of an abort. Like if they can't light those engines, or if they light some and then they have an issue there really is no abort to the Gulf. It's more pile driving into the beach than anything.
Which is not great, but better than roasting your tank farm, right?
Yeah, so we'll have to see how this actually works out, because the booster comes in more of on a glide. I don't think they'll be able to, if they have any problems really, really late on, I don't think they're really going to be able to recover it much. But I mean, seeing a booster pile driving to the beach, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I would feel bad for beachgoers and also wildlife, but holy cow, what a sight! What a sight that would be.
That would be.
It would be incredible to see and capture, but definitely best if that does not happen.
Right
now, object. We have a question here on our thoughts on the launch abort systems for Starship. Like, what are your thoughts on Starship's abort capabilities?
Ryan, I'll let you go first. I have thoughts, but
I was about to say, if we're talking like abort, like if you had crew on board, could you abort the ship? They can't. Starship has zero capability to do an abort. Like if they were partway through a set phase and they tried to hot stage, the ship doesn't really have the thrust to weight ratio to get away from the booster in any sort of quick manner.
What about when they go 9 engines versus 6?
9, they can get away. They could probably get away a little bit. The real question would be is what's the failure mode? But after that, then you turn into a slight problem of where do you land the ship? Because shuttle could abort and maybe, supposedly, possibly with what was it? Miracles in
Continuous
interspersement.
miracles interspersed with acts of God.
Yeah, that line right there.
Good old John Young.
Yeah, I don't think there really isn't any way to safely return ship. They can't turn around, go back. If depending on where they are, can't really abort to orbit. I don't think they really have any abort profile at all. So the point is, as Elon has said in the past and whatnot, is to fly this thing so much that you literally know any possible failure mode with it, so that it more or less almost never happens. That's what you can do, basically.
Yeah, I mean, we're still so early in this program. I mean, especially us seasoned tank watchers who watch Starship day in and day out. A lot of these things can begin to feel permanent. Like the vehicles can feel more concrete than I think they are internally at SpaceX. I think things are constantly changing. Obviously, SpaceX has teased version 2 and version 3 of Starship, so they're thinking about way into the future. So who knows? Like maybe by the time we get to cruise launching on Starship, there's like a little detachable nose cone thingy with like some methalox sort of derived thrusters, and who knows? I don't know. But yeah, right now there is no abort system, except for hot staging early, and then that, like you said, Ryan, doesn't take into account where you then land the ship, or it doesn't take into account what's the failure mode. Like if the failure mode is suddenly flap not working good, and it's like flapping all around on ascent, Starship being able to theoretically separate from the booster via hot staging is not beneficial to you at that point. But yeah, I don't know. I suspect the answer won't end up being a little detachable fun capsule, which I'm going to trademark. I think the answer will be, like you said, Ryan. It'll just be fly it so many dang times that you're confident that it's not necessary. Which, to be honest, as someone who both loves and hates the space shuttle, I don't love that answer. But you know what?
Yeah.
We'll see what the future holds. At this point, I was surprised when SpaceX said they were going to catch a booster instead of putting legs on it. Like I will never cease to be surprised by what SpaceX decides to do. So who knows? Like when we do eventually get to crew launches on Starship, who knows what the vehicle will be looking like at that point. But until then, I think launching on a Dragon and docking with Starship in orbit makes a lot of sense. Then you use Dragon to come home, and you're nice and safe. And you have plenty of volume while you're in space. You have a way to get to and from Starship. Treat it like a mobile space station. I don't know. I suspect that'll be the method of operations for the foreseeable future.
Now, real quick, I want to thank Yap Kuipers for gifting a Red Team membership. And then you had briefly talked about like the Starship 2 design. Now we're seeing like heat shield changes. We saw some flap changes there. Are there any other changes we might be expecting to see?
I mean, the payload bay has been updated, right? Versus the previous design, it's more rounded.
Smaller. Yeah.
Beyond
payload
that,
bay as a whole.
Are there any ships right now, Ryan, that have the elliptical domes?
No.
So, I mean, I presume when we see a version 2 ship or booster dome, it'll be elliptical. I mean, they've been testing that for a hot minute now, right?
Yeah, the boosters already got one. The common dome, that started on booster 10. Is that 10 or 11? Oh man, I don't even remember. But it's already got a elliptical dome. Booster 12 has it on its common. So that's already been updated. My guess is ship's common will get to an elliptical dome. Most likely the forward is going to get it as well, based off some indications here. Other changes. Well, the payload bay is smaller. It is now 2 rings smaller. They were able to free up some room in the nose cone a little bit because they were able to move some of the. It looks like they were able to move some of the COPVs up into this whole new package, which is the methane and LOX header tanks, and then of course COPVs that surround the space in between them. Flaps are moved more forward. Yeah, it's going to look weird, but it is not the 120 degrees that had been mentioned in the past. It looks about 140. So they're slightly moved more leeward, so away from the heat shield area, which
Yeah, I'm
will help.
thankful it doesn't look as bad as I feared, but who knows how it's going to change over time.
The nose cone on its own looks nice.
Also,
stacked,
quick note: as we were talking about the abort modes and everything, and I mentioned like the detachable nose capsule or whatever. That doesn't even really work, at least not with the current design, because the header tanks and COPVs that are way wedged up there at the tip of the nose. Like, good luck disconnecting all that in a coherent fashion, and that just poses so many issues. But I think people a lot of the time, at least I certainly do, forget how much hardware is crammed up in the tip of the nose cone. You know, both header tanks for liquid oxygen and methane, plus now a whole bunch of COPVs aren't just like, you know, stashed along the inside of the nose cone. They're really jammed up there. So it looks like it's like, oh wow, look at the huge nose cone. There's all this space, and it's like, well, how much of the tip of that is actually not really habitable in any way?
Half the nose cone is unusable to payloads. The bottom half is the only one that's usable. When you're doing the calculations for usable payload space, and this is not taking into the fact that you're not really going to be able to use all 9 meters. There's stringers you have to account for, and all the lines that are inside. The calculations are in the realm of, let's see, what was it? It's about where was it here? It's down to like 640 meters cubed or so, is what they're at. I would knock that down to 500. So that 1,000 cubic meters that you say is usable payload area, not really. At least not on Block 2. The reason why it shrunk so much is because, well, the payload bay is now 2 rings shorter. They are moving the domes around on ships, so they're adding a ring, by the looks of it. And they're moving the domes around. Also, to add to that, to every, as I had said in the past, the renders given on that chart back at that all hands meeting, I said take them with a grain of salt. Yeah, well, it looks like the render for Starship 2 is dead on, like dead on exact, as how it's going to look. I don't know how the booster is going to be, but the ship itself, it's basically dead on based on what we can see from current hardware. So. Yeah. SpaceX actually had a working render.
Wait, so you said they're shortening the payload bay. Does that just mean they're stretching the tanks at the expense of payload bay?
Yep, they're adding 300 tons of propellant.
Oh, no big deal. Just a couple hundred tons of propellant.
So
no big deal.
Yep. The domes will move around, and they're adding that. So it's going to be fun to see that.
So we have a little bit more support here. We have Telstar86 gifting a Red Team membership. Thank you. And we also have the Nozzle gifting a Red Team membership. If you got one of those memberships, be sure to thank them in the chat.
The Nozzle. Dude, are you Adventure Brothers fan? I forget.
No.
I feel like you would be. You should watch Venture Brothers, D.
In all my copious free time?
In all your copious free time.
Now, my question, just me, we are seeing, of course, Ship 30 and Booster 12 flying for Flight 5. after this, do we think they're going to go on to the version 2 of Starship? Do we think they're going to what do we think their plans are after Flight 5, assuming that it is successful?
Well, right now it's going to be Ship 31, Booster 13. 31's in Mega Bay 2. It's on a work stand. It's going to start to get engines. As far as I know, we haven't spotted anything yet going in there. But that could be any day. And one thing SpaceX loves to do is when they're rolling something, they like to say, "Ha, gotcha," and they'll roll something else while we're all focused on something else. Trust me, they've done it. It's actually funny how coordinated they are at times. But it'll be Ship 31. They'll get that out of the way. They'll fly that, and that should be the last Block 1 version 1 ship to fly. After that, it'll be Ship 33, because that's what the first version 2 is going to be. So.
Now, we were talking a bit earlier about what happens in the event that they have an issue during an attempted booster landing. And so, would it not be smart for them to have a catch tower closer to the sea, or even one of their at-sea catch towers, to avoid damage to a launch tower?
You'd think so, maybe, but I mean, to anyone that's actually been down to Starbase, the orbital pad is, I think, as close as you would want it to the ocean. I mean, it's incredibly close. It's dare I say, it's kind of stupid close to the beach. So I don't know that you can get any closer to it. A sea platform would be cool, but SpaceX sold their oil rigs, and who knows when. Wait, what is rolling in front of Booster 12? Is that the feet for a tower segment? You see that?
Oh, I do see
Yeah,
that.
it is. That is the transport for Module 2.
Nice.
That would be why it might be going a little bit slower. Because what I was going to say is the Booster 12 has been kind of going a little slow. It's kind of starting and stopping. I think
Booster 12 is like, geez, there's traffic. Oh my god.
Yeah, so it's those are rolling back. They don't need those anymore. So yeah, those feet will now be used on wherever the next tower is going to be, which, well, that could be 37 or 49, or I don't know. I don't really know which pad's going to be available first, but that'll be probably the next pad at the Cape. So
Now, they don't plan on doing this, but there would be some massive performance gains if they did opt to fully expend a booster on one of these launches. Do we have any numbers on what their total payload to orbit could be if they fully expended both booster and ship?
well, I know that based off of the numbers on that chart, which was like 40 to 50 tons for version 1, which is a lot less than we thought. But that's also because SpaceX is not running Raptors at max. They're running them at like 90%, give or take. Because they don't need the performance right now, because they're just testing. They're not actually putting payloads up. So it's kind of a risk assessment or risk reward kind of thing. Do you really want to max out your Raptors when you don't have to?
So now would there be then additional risk of failure? So could that be to like ensure reliability during these test flights somewhat versus running them 100% the whole time?
Yeah, it'd be more, yeah, just kind of reliability risk kind of thing. Just make sure it actually does work. My guess is at some point they will be running those at max, because you're gonna want that flight data running at max for long periods of time. At some point they're gonna want it.
Be nice to Max.
Okay, Jack. Thanks.
He's not on stream.
I will. I'll be
keep
nice to
himself
Max. But in terms of raw numbers, I mean, we can kind of guess. It would be a really kind of a wild guess because we don't know the true mass of these vehicles. They also seem to kind of change up a little bit, or they don't really seem to fill them full of propellant in these test flights. So with a full tanks of propellant and whatnot, it's really hard to know exactly how much they would get out of it expended. My guess with this version, it would probably just an expended booster. You're probably looking at maybe 70, 80. I really don't know. It's just hard to know because there's so many unknowns. Like, there's a lot of numbers we just don't know. So
Yeah, I do wonder how overweight ship and booster are at this point. I mean, you got to figure that they're way overweight, especially
Yeah.
with that. What was it? The 50 tons number.
They are, and just to put that in, they're adding 50% more stringers on the aft of Block 2 ship. And they're continually adding more stringers. Granted, they're a little bit thinner, but they're continually adding more stringers, more structural reinforcement. I hope that later down the line, I think it's more mass optimized in some areas, but it's still adding more mass in other areas.
I can't help but wonder if they're just writing checks that they are hoping that improved versions of Raptor can pay or cash later.
Yeah. And the thing is, we do know that they can still go to 100% on Raptor, and they're not at it right now. And we know they're making more powerful versions of Raptor, so there is that added to it. It's kind of funny that they needed to really, in order to get that 200 tons to orbit kind of estimate, they needed to make the cursed stretched Starship 3.
God, I hate it. I hate it so much.
I wish I would. They've married themselves to 9 meters, as we can see. I just can you imagine if this wasn't this was the same size booster jack, except for this was 12 meters wide and it was a stainless steel ITS.
I wish just make the second tower and pad sized for 12 meters and just switch to 12. Come on.
Yeah. All the tooling, all the
Starship
works.
Way better than
More rocket, more better.
Yeah.
They have to modify all the bays, all the tooling, star factor, everything would have to get modified to 12.
I just hate if the render from that all hands meeting for version 2 was so spot on, I am significantly concerned for version 3. It's gonna look so weird.
Now, Astro Playground saying they need to double the size of the road so we can have boosters passing each other. And I agree. That would be incredibly cool. So, a question we got a while ago from T. Brookie, do you think they will transport Section 3 today? Now, we have the other transporter now moving ahead of the booster. Is there any chance that they bring another section of the tower out?
Yeah, I would assume probably tonight. Sometime in the middle of the night, they'll roll Section 3. They like to do that kind of stuff in the middle of the night if they can, because, well, there's not as many people on the roads. As much as it hurts us because, you don't really want to keep everyone awake to stream all that stuff because, it's in the middle of the night. But they do it because it's not as busy on the road. So, but I would expect Module 3 to roll out tonight, if anything.
Do they have separate feet rigs for each module?
Yeah, each module is already on its own transporter. The SP&Ts literally just have to go under it and pick it up.
Neat.
So, yeah. As you see, Module
2. How about that?
As much as Jack doesn't want to call it a module, but
if it's fine, it's fine.
So, we've been talking a lot about Starship. I'm taking this question definitely not for the second half of it, but what's your favorite space movie as we watch Booster 12 be transported back?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Like there's like different types of space movies. If we're talking like pure action, man, that's even a hard question.
That's tough.
Pure comedy space movie. It's Spaceballs. Like you just can't beat it. Pure comedy. Yeah, no, it's Spaceballs. Turns of action, like there's some like First Contact's really good one.
Now, I will say, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I have seen Fly Me to the Moon.
Ooh,
I'm not going to say anything more other than I enjoyed it.
nice.
And I will leave it at that. I don't know if chat has seen it at all, but
Is that a D flex? I think that might be a flex.
it's not a flex. It's in theaters.
Okay, all right.
It wasn't anything special.
Okay. Man, that's a really hard question. Like, my old like film curmudgeon brain wants to say 2001 because Stanley Kubrick is the greatest director of all time.
Same.
Don't at me. There's so many good. I mean, Apollo 13 is really good. Contact. If you haven't seen Contact, drop everything you're doing right now. Leave the stream on another screen, but go watch Contact. So
all right,
good.
I'll talk to y'all later. I'm gonna go.
Okay.
No wonder when we were in New Mexico, you weren't super stoked on going to the VLA. I mean, you were down, but you weren't like, we have to go. I feel like if you had seen Contact, you would have been like, we have to go.
It was already such a busy trip.
That's true. It's
How
so
would
true.
we have managed that?
we might have gone. We might have gone actually insane.
Did we not already?
I mean, more insane than we did.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, in terms of just a really, really good space movie, and it's not even a directed movie, it's a documentary, is Apollo 11. When they
Yes.
took all the archival footage together, the comms and everything, they put it all together in a movie, that was amazing. The sounds they had for Saturn V at launch. Okay. Yeah, no, I think that one, that in terms of just sheer best favorite space movie, it's Apollo 11.
And
the documentary.
speaking of Apollo 11, this is the 55th anniversary of Apollo 11's launch to the moon. We cannot
Wow,
forget
is.
about that.
Yeah.
Wow. 55 years, and it's. I don't want to be. I want to be optimistic and be like, yeah, 55 years, and we're about to go back. Hooray! At the same time, of course, I'm going to be a little bit grumpy about it. Like 55 years, and what do we have to show for it? So thank goodness for Starship. Thank goodness for Starship. Not only going back to the moon, but with the human landing system variant, completely different ballgame.
Yeah, the rocket we see here is like 2.5 times as powerful as Saturn V, the one that launched that, and it's only going to get even more powerful. It's kind of ridiculous, considering how powerful the S1C was. But
Now that booster is getting close to the production site now. It's past our other site. So
I see lovely clouds here.
Who is
Yeah.
taking this camera for a joyride right now? Is that Ryan?
I think that's Ryan and Mars.
I think Ryan had one too many energy drinks today.
Lovely clouds, though, Ryan. Lovely clouds.
Gonna have to start calling him Mr. Cloud.
Now Ryan can't find the booster in the back channel. That's good.
Zoom out, buddy. Step one is zoom out.
now, if y'all have any more questions, be sure to at NASASpaceflight in chat, and we will try to get to any of them. I see some of you are still talking about all of your favorite movies. I saw some Apollo 13s in there. So bring us all your questions.
Galaxy
and we
Quest.
will
You
answer
gotta
them.
mention Galaxy Quest too. I
Ooh.
saw a lot of people saying that one.
Yep.
Like Raptors hammer. I forget what the rest of that line is. You shall be avenged or something like that. I don't know. Either way, Galaxy Quest, quality movie. Ooh, Bob says the right stuff. Also, like in terms of cinema, space cinema, like so many iconic moments that were parodied and homaged, if that's even a word. Like so many classic moments in the right stuff. Now I want to watch the right stuff.
There are so many movies. So many great space movies.
So many movies, so little time.
Right?
Indeed. When will we have the time? Now, a bit back ago, we got asked if we could would need something like the Super Dracos for an abort. Like, they are, for our understanding, like planning to not have an abort system, but is there any way they could integrate something like that into the second stage? I saw another question about would there be a way to even fly Dragon on the Starship to make use of its abort system? And I definitely,
But
as wild as a
I'm-
look as that would be, I want to see some photoshops of that.
Where-
Somebody call Moldy Space. Moldy Space, you
How-
have a new cursed Kerbal creation to create, and that is a
How?
dragon as the tip of the nose cone for a starship.
I'm trying to even think how that would. How? That's all. Yeah.
I think to your point, D, like, no, they're not planning on having an abort system. I mean, never say never. SpaceX is skilled at changing their minds when they realize they've made a design trade that they maybe don't think is the right trade anymore. But I think in a world where Starship does have an abort system, it would probably involve something like the Methalox thrusters on the human landing system variant. Something like that, where you're using the propellants you already have on ship, and you're augmenting the thrust that you're getting from the Raptors, so you can actually get away from an exploding booster super fast. But again, that doesn't solve the problem of where does the ship land. If it's a water landing, how does the crew egress? And if it's not a water landing, I mean, if it requires a tower to land, then you have to, RTLS all the way back, which who knows if that would even be possible with a full ship, even with extra thrusters or something. But I could totally see starships with those, crewed starships with those Methalox hot gas thrusters from the human landing system variant as some kind of augmented abort system. Do I expect it? No. Would I be shocked to see it? A little bit. Is it even remotely plausible? Debatable. But a good question nonetheless.
Now, Moto Kenzo asking if the road is cleared during a rollout or if you can stand there and watch. Now, Jack, we were actually near the production site during a roll back. What was that, during Flight 2? Like
I think
2
that
days
was
after Flight 2?
Yeah, I think that was B11 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so are you able to be out there and watch these? And what sort of closures take effect during the transports most of the time?
Well, so this is an intermittent road closure, meaning like the hard roadblock, the soft roadblock, all that stuff that we see for static fire testing or wet dress testing and that kind of thing are not active. So you can see all of these cars that are just waiting for the booster to make its way up Highway 4. So you can literally be in a car driving right behind it. You can also be standing off the road. In certain places, you have to be a little bit strategic about it. Sometimes law enforcement will shoo you, sometimes they won't, depending on where you are and depending on what particular law enforcement officer is working that day. It's pretty wishy-washy. But yeah, like, you can position yourself in the right spot or two to have this thing essentially drive right past you, which is, I mean, as many times as I've seen it, it does not stop being surreal and is really the only possible way you can get any sort of measure of, hey, look, a pink cement truck. Neat.
I like it.
I knew you would. The only way you can have any sort of sense of scale. Oh, we're going to track. Of course, Ryan's going to track the cement truck now.
Oh god.
Chad is going to be not stoked about this, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. When
Don't zoom out, you coward.
When we were trapped on the beach, actually, during that booster roll, and then we went up there to see it turn into the production site.
Yep.
That was the first time I had gotten the true scale of... Oh my gosh, you're still tracking it. That was the first time I had really felt the scale of the rocket as a whole, because you're already super close just when they're at the launch site. But when you are at the side of the road and you are 10, 15 feet away from that thing, you're just looking straight up at it. And it is absolutely incredible.
I think one of my favorite images to shoot in all of Starbase is when a booster is rolling by, and you can get the right angle right underneath the grid fin. It looks like an MC Escher painting or something. I try and get that shot every time I can, just because it's just endlessly satisfying. And yeah, to really just be able to look up at it and sort of wrap your head around, okay, this is how big this is. It's quite.
I'm glad we're back on the booster now.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, it is cool standing next to really big vehicles. It was kind of fun last night. While at work, there was a pair of 747s from a Luxembourg cargo airline that had to divert to MSP, and well, I got to go up inside the 47s and see. One's a Dash 8, one was a Dash 400. It's really cool to see a vehicle of that size.
There's not a lot of passenger 800s, are there?
No, they were both freighter ones. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Still cool.
But it's still a 747, and it's really cool standing next to those things. They're huge compared to a 37. So. But it's always fun to stand next to large vehicles. I need to go down there and see boosters. I just have to at some point.
You also, just because you're a plane guy, you need to make your way out to Mojave one of these days and see the Rock, Stratolaunch's carrier aircraft. It's stupid. In the best way, it's just stupid huge. In the same way that when we had the low altitude Starship flight tests, where it just looked like it was moving impossibly slow as it belly flopped just because of how huge it was. Same kind of deal with Rock. It just looks like, how is that in the air? It's not even. It looks more like the movement of a blimp than the movement of a plane at times. It's pretty hilarious.
Now, here's an interesting question. Will we see a sort of Franken Starship, a mix of V1 ship and V2 booster, or vice versa?
Well, we'll never.
Go ahead.
We'll never see a V1 ship on top of a V2 booster because V1s will be far gone, long gone by the time a V2 booster comes into play. What they'll have to do for a couple of flights is they'll do some version 2 ships on top of version 1 boosters. And that'll have to fly out of pad A for a few times. As of right now, based off everything I can tell from especially modifications to what is most likely going to be the OLM hold downs is what Gary caught at McGregor about a week ago or so, along with a lot of engine shield changes they're going to need to be making and a lot of stuff like that. I highly doubt a version 1 booster would ever be able to fit ever be compatible with pad B or vice versa, like a block 2 booster with pad A. So once they fly all the version 1 boosters they have planned, and once that pad is operational, it's going to be block 2, or 2.5 maybe at that point. Who knows? But and then of course pad A will get demolished. But we'll never see a version 1 ship fly on a block 2 booster. That's never going to happen.
You touched on this just perfectly. We had a question from Star Guy. Will they rebuild the Orbital Launch Mount 1 after Orbital Launch Mount 2 is fully operational to get that upgraded design? And I think you just answered that, right?
Yeah, so what they'll most likely do is, so that pad is far and away in every sense of everything is so outdated. I can't even describe it how outdated, and it's a MacGyver just thing at this point.
Minimum viable product.
Yeah, it works for the at the point of the program where they're at. When they want to go operational, it absolutely does not work. What will happen is they'll once they're ready to start scrapping it, they'll go in with plasma cutters and they'll just start slicing pieces of it apart. They'll take out any of the hoses they want to save or recycle or anything like that. But they'll just start slicing and dicing it, and then eventually they'll They'll destroy all the concrete around there, all the fondag, all the pile cap, everything. They'll rip up the foundation. They'll rip out the plate. They'll probably rip apart some of the innards of the tower as well, and then they'll build it all back up to Pad B standards. The tower is probably going to stay. That takes a lot to take out. You might as well keep that structure and just modify it. But in terms of that pad, that OLM will not survive. It'll get sliced, diced, cut up. We'll see if they may even have to use explosives. I really don't know.
Well, that would
we'll
be
find out.
a sight.
I hope they have to use explosives and a sky crane. Maybe multiple sky cranes and an SR-71.
Jack, if I'm not there,
Jack?
you better get some slow-mo.
You know it. As
All
long as my
right.
R5 doesn't overheat.
SR7. Oh, SR-71. I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, and a XB-70. For good measure.
For reasons.
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure. Okay, for reasons.
So, with yesterday's static fire, do we know what sort of outcome they had of that? Did they have any issues, anything like that, or as far as we know, was that just a totally successful static fire of the booster?
As
Yep.
far as we know, that's a full duration 33 engine, fully successful static fire. So.
Yeah, barring getting any additional information from SpaceX, that's, I think, what we just have to assume. If they saw any issues with any of the engines, they'll pull them out and swap them out while it's back at the Mega Bay. But we have no way, unfortunately, of knowing if all 33 lit, if any of them shut down early, or anything like that. But it certainly looked like a good fire. But yeah, Steve's comment is fair. We are assuming that there were no bad engines on the static fire. We don't know for a fact that there were not.
Now, I want to rapid fire through a couple questions here. Could they launch Starship from a silo?
Okay, I threw this one into the question queue because I was like, huh? I'm gonna go with no, just because of the acoustics, but also, like, why would you want to? I'm really curious, 0xDC, why you asked this question. I'm not saying it's a bad question. It's an interesting question, which is why I put it in the question queue. But why? That I'm answering a question with a question. Why?
Now, Jack, this one would be for you. Why is there a window missing on Mega Bay 2? Is there a window missing, and do you know anything about that?
I do not know anything about it. I see what they're talking about. I have no idea.
That is where they had the construction elevator. I guess they haven't placed it in yet. I really don't know. I don't know what they're doing up in that area there. So they've got 2 full staircases that go from the bottom of the bay all the way up to the top in the front 2 corners, and then they've got an elevator in each of the back 2 corners that go all the way up to the top. So I don't know what it's going to be used for. Could be any number of things. I mean, we know, of course, as we can see right here, as the booster is, we can see the reflection in the booster in the Star Factory windows, which is really cool. You can see the massive office building they're continuing to build, and they're starting to put HVAC systems and stuff on the inside of that thing. So,
okay, hear me out. Water slide
all the way down
to the bay.
That would be cool.
You could only use it when the tide is just right, but I mean, come on, water slide.
I'll do it.
Now, what about, are there some visual upgrades? Anything that we can see that has really changed from Booster 11 to Booster 12 here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Ryan. I'll let you take this one.
They got the upgraded Starlink antennas. They're all 4 chines now have the square antennas. There's a little strip of I think what it was like some thermal heat shielding around the engine shielding that got removed. That's kind of like a minor one. The big one is the addition of a new FTS box at the lateral supports on the transfer tube. for booster 12, which is it's sitting on the LOX tank in between the chines. I don't know what SpaceX prompted to do that. I mean, it's pretty obvious. When they blow those explosives, it'll puncture a hole in the LOX tank, snap the transfer tube, mixing methane and oxygen, and then the explosion will cause, well, a bigger explosion. So I more boom, more better, right? I guess. And you can see it right there. There's the new box. Now, here's the funny part about that box is it's a slightly different design than the box that's on the methane tank. It's a slightly different design than the old FTS boxes they had on both booster and ship. And it's a slightly different design than the one that's currently on ship. So I don't know why they keep slightly changing a small stamped steel design, but I don't know. It's SpaceX. They're SpaceXing as usual.
Now, when they potentially tear down a Tower A, if they have to tear it down, would they have to remove the concrete base? Like, do you think they would be able to?
I can't see them tearing down the whole tower. I really can't. And
That's
I'm happy to eat my words. But that seems far-fetched even for SpaceX.
That's a mammoth undertaking. Because you have to remember, not only are you trying to cut the steel on the columns, but you have to find a way to break up the concrete that's inside the columns. You have to do it one by one as you basically try to slice up and destack the tower, because I don't think you're gonna blow the thing and tip it over. Yeah,
that would be sick though. All right, wait, hear me out. Remove the tower and old pad by slamming a booster into it during a catch attempt. Two birds, one stone.
I don't think the booster's powerful enough to do that. Those things, that's a lot of steel and concrete.
Just activate the FTS as you hit the tower. It'll be fine.
You need to have a decent amount of leftover propellant too,
instead of stringers, just wrap shape charges around outer edge of the booster.
Okay, but Jack, they don't need a new tower if they can air launch Starship from.
Hey,
Harry.
Hey, I love it. I think they could, in theory, air launch a Starship from the rock, but yeah.
Can the rock pick up 1,300 tons?
Okay, no, I think rock can do 500, so never mind.
Like, I mean, you could put a little bit of propellant into the ship, but it wouldn't be much. And so basically just fill the headers with propellant. Okay,
it's for landing tests.
Drop it. Yeah. You drop it, and then you run the three, and then you run the three centers at max, because with the headers you can't use the RVACs. So, or at least it wouldn't really last that long.
Paging Multi-Space Industries, you have yet another cursed Kerbal creation to build.
Now, to get slightly back onto the rails here, when we're out shooting Starship launches, we have a bunch of different systems in place. So Steven was wondering how placed cameras would be potentially used to capture the catch.
Oh, I don't have anything to comment on at the moment, but it's definitely something we're thinking about, right?
It is certainly being discussed on all sorts of different plans. You've seen our previous flight footage, and we definitely want to capture the catch.
That said, like automation or remote cameras, all of that is well and good. And the booster is now turned into the production site. It's about to be obscured by the Star Factory.
It just goes to show how big Star Factory is, and then you see huge. How tall booster is, and it's just like.
But yeah, what I was going to say is shooting from our river lot, I think I'm like 3 miles and change away. And for the latter portions of ascent, just the way the angle works up, the vehicle is flying basically straight away from that vantage point. But that means that for a booster coming back, it's going to be flying straight at us. So even if remotes and everything else completely fails, which, knock on wood, we'll have some redundancy and some of our ideas will work. will have crewed cameras on it as well, which should still be amazing. I mean, a booster coming back at 1200 millimeters from River, that's the angle we were just looking at there. Quality. It's gonna be awesome. And I don't want any setbacks to this program. I certainly don't want that. I want to get Starship fully operational as quickly as possible, but I'm just gonna say, if Booster 12 does attempt to catch and does explode a little bit, I'm not gonna be mad. Explosions are cool when nobody gets hurt.
Now we have some support here. We have a $10 super chat from Todd Harris, who's wondering how long we think High Bay will be around after Mega Bay 2 is done. If they will wait till the office building is done so they can remove Stargate at the same time. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I guess that would make sense, right? Huh. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Office building complete. They pull out Stargate and the High Bay and replace it with a Mega Bay. Maybe even, dare I say, an Ultra Bay. I don't know what's more than Mega. A Turbo Bay? Yeah, that would make sense. I don't know. I don't really have any thoughts beyond that, but that's a plausible order of operations to me.
Now we can just see Booster 12 making its way into the production site here.
Ryan in our back
what
channel.
are your thoughts, Ryan?
Ryan in our back channel is saying Gigabay, Terabay, Petabay, Yotabay.
Well, here's the thing: if they truly plan on making the booster a little bit taller, like on Starship 3 or Block 3 or whatever, the current bay is not big enough. Current Mega Bay is not as big as that bay is. It's not big enough. The door isn't, at least. So they will need a new bay to do it. There wouldn't be enough clearance to put it on a work stand and pick it up with a bridge crane. So, my guess is they're going to build larger bays at Roberts Road. I can't wait till they build the factory and bays at Roberts Road, because I think what they're going to do is they'll have like a tiered bay, kind of like the VAB. They'll have like a lower bay where they make all the ring sections and everything, and then they'll have kind of like a mid to high bay. Yeah, I said VAB, Ryan. I said VAB just for you.
I was gonna yell at you. I was gonna yell at you about it, but Ryan did it in the back channel.
VAB. Anyways, I wanted to do it once. Just like the VAB.
I can't. What can I even say to that? I was just so shocked.
Oh, okay. I'll say VAB. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. For you, I'll say VAB. I just
appreciate that.
Okay. Anyways, they'll have multiple tiers, kind of like a lower one where they'll make the ring sections higher to mid bay area, where they'll start stacking them, and then they'll like one end of the factory will basically just be these massive like mega or really, really large high bays where they'll stack ships and boosters, and none of the pieces will ever come outside until the vehicle's complete. So
I just saw, I'm trying to scroll back up in chat to see who let me know. Trey9 let us know Elon just stated SpaceX will move its HQ to Starbase. So Elon tweeted that they will be moving their headquarters from Hawthorne down to Starbase.
Yeah, good luck getting all those engineers to move to Starbase. That's all I have to say about that.
That's not gonna happen.
Good luck.
Elon says a lot of things. You think all the people who have been living in Hawthorne are gonna move? Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. Especially to Starbase. Like, there's a massive difference between LA and Brownsville.
Yeah, I mean, well, he did it with Tesla, so.
Well, didn't that move to Austin?
Yeah.
Yeah, Austin is a lot different than Brownsville. Austin's
Yeah.
a relatively large city with a lot in it. And Brownsville is not developed. Brownsville is literally the bottom of the United States. That is not.
In more ways than one.
Yeah.
Austin is cool. I like Austin.
Like it. No, that's no. Just no.
So I guess we will see if the headquarters actually moves or what, or when any of that happens.
I mean,
But,
remember that time Elon tweeted about Cybertrucks being made out of Starship steel? Or remember that time Elon tweeted about taking Tesla public at $420 a share, or private, sorry? Remember that time? Like, there's so many examples of this. Like, an Elon tweet does not reality make. Obviously, something to pay attention to, the things that he's saying. Who knows what'll happen, but yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll just move it on paper and have like a PO box in Texas for legal purposes. Who knows? I don't know.
My guess is legally
like all the
he'll try to
companies
move
that
it.
that are registered in Delaware.
Yeah, my guess
Right.
is legally on the legal side he'll do it, but in the practical side, no, Hawthorne is not moving. They're not moving all of that production and everything from their facility at Hawthorne. That's not happening.
Ooh, Raj says Starbase. I like Starbase.
Can we? Can I just say this? Can we stop using star?
No,
Like it just feels so overused.
no. More star, more better. Embrace it.
Now, Gina G is asking if we think the exclusion zone would potentially be bigger for a catch attempt if they're flying back the booster.
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not a rocket scientist or a risk analyst, but as we've talked about many times, a booster coming back for a landing has a minimal amount of propellant left in it by definition. And while a RUD or some kind of issue with a catch attempt would be bad for a number of reasons, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And I mean, I would think that the exclusion zone is sized for like a pad fallback of the full stack or an Amos 6 style detonation of the full stack on the pad, like a worst possible case scenario, which would mean the maximum amount of propellant in the worst possible way. And that is not what you get with a booster attempting a catch. Certainly not trivial and certainly not devoid of risk, but I don't think that would necessitate expanding the exclusion zone.
Now, one of the things I know we've talked about before is that there are just 2 lifting pins on the booster, and like if only one of those managed to catch, it would be hanging at an angle. But would it ever be worthwhile to put more pins so that at least rotation wise, if they lose rotation control, they can still catch the booster? Or would there be any benefit?
If we hadn't just talked about the booster being woefully overweight, I might agree with you. Even some kind of like collar, right, around that area of the booster, so that it doesn't matter what rotational orientation it lands in. There's just a collar that can catch on the arms. But yeah, I mean that you're very easily getting into the slippery slope of, oh, let's just add a little bit more weight. Let's just add a little bit more weight, and then that's how you end up with a vehicle that is supposed to be able to launch 100 tons that can only do 50. You know,
There's a lot of problems with that, though. Several, in fact. One is there's only one orientation in which the booster can have its QD be put back on the OLM. So if they want to put it back on the OLM, it either has to land one way or it doesn't land at all. If it were to be off axis in this instance, putting it back on a transport stand would get slightly tricky because the stabilizer points at the bottom of the booster are now not in the right location. So you have to move around the transport stand to try to get them lined up and stuff like that. It's not designed to be caught that way. It either lands on the 2 pins or it doesn't. That's kind of what it is. So Not a lot of options.
So we've been talking a lot about these catch attempts and what could happen. Would a tank farm, a potential tank farm explosion, would that be bigger than a full stack explosion? Like that, they'd undoubtedly be very different because of like propellant location and whatnot. But what?
I mean, at that point after a launch, the tank farm would be mostly empty, right?
Be relatively empty, yeah. There'd still be some in it because they have margins for recycle
and
things like
whatnot.
that, scrubs
Yeah.
and whatnot. Because you don't want just exact one for one because you always have losses. So it would be a decent explosion, but it wouldn't be like a full stack going off. So
Okay. And now we have a message from Eduardo saying, "Thank you for your work. Go NSF." And they got something in the store. What did they get?
T-shirt.
A T-shirt. Awesome. Thank you
Nice.
for your support.
They got a Flight 4 shirt too, which is a good move, honestly, because as we get closer to Flight 5, I know the store team is going to be clearing out the old to make way for the new. So, good call, grabbing that now while you still can.
Yeah, and we've had a number of questions over time about when patch 5.
I'm not Adrian. I'm not on the store team. I just occasionally
Yeah.
go into the store channel and ask for silly things like orange shirts. But if I'm not wrong, and we follow the same trends as we have previously for previous flights.
Hey, we're getting told to leak it.
No,
Crispy is saying, "Leak it, Jack, leak."
no, I can't.
no,
I can't.
Chris.
But when
No.
we get the full stack for Flight 5, when they get the ship out there and the booster out there and stack them together, I believe the plan is to release the patch at that point, same as we did for Flight 4. I will leak a little bit though. I have seen some of the preliminary designs for the Flight 5 patch, and to use the vernacular of the youngins these days, it slaps. So stay tuned.
They're rolling the
haven't seen it.
booster. They're rolling the booster back a little bit right now.
It's pretty
Huh.
cluttered there at the
Yeah,
production site right now, and I know they've torn up some of the concrete, so they might have to take do like a 3-point turn or something to get around some of the nonsense.
it looks like they have a clear shot to the bay. I think they just they're trying to move around some stuff because they redid the concrete again. I think they were doing some drainage work around there as they're trying to finish up all the construction there and then close it off. Yeah, they're just kind of sitting right now, somewhat in front of the bay.
Now we do have some support from Telstar86 with a £2 super chat saying, "Shuttle Bay, best of both worlds."
Nice. Also, that's a heavy super chat. 2 pounds.
Yeah, I don't want to carry around that weight. Leave it on our shoulders for too long, you know? Now, Jack, I have to bring this one up.
Uh-oh.
Does the booster have blinkers for traffic so that when they're passing each other, like they can communicate like that?
No, it has indicators. Indicators.
So it has indicator fluid?
Yeah, yes. If you watch the insane driving stream, you know what we're talking about. Also, I will forever cherish the fact that we got Crispy so good with that one.
That was incredible.
If you want to get anyone who's not mechanically oriented, you literally just talk about blinker fluid or indicator fluid or something. It's really good. It's a good one. They'll think, "Is that real?" Then you just lead them on. It's so fun.
There's a couple other ones like that I can't remember, but it's like get the stops for the door or something like that. There's a whole bunch of those hilarious like
turbo encabulator.
Yeah. Do you remember the Novatronians?
Yeah, the Novatronians. Yeah.
We're gonna have way too much side fumbling without those
Yeah.
Novatronians.
Now, we've been really talking a lot about Starship this stream, but a potential elephant in the room is Falcon 9. And the FAA did provide a statement about that to NSF. And so we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. But essentially, they said they are responsible for and committed to protecting the public during commercial space transportation, launch, and reentry operations. And SpaceX requested that the FAA make a public safety determination as part of the investigation into Group 9-3. Now, we saw a similar determination be made with that in regards to Flight 3 previously, didn't we? Before they had done the full investigation, just so that they could get back to flight, right?
Yeah, and as far as we know, that investigation is still open. I have not heard anything or seen anything from the FAA or SpaceX indicating that Flight 3's investigation is closed yet. Basically, what this will allow, if the FAA grants it, this will allow SpaceX to continue flying Falcon 9 while they look into the investigation. And I'm assuming with this kind of request, SpaceX might have a relative idea of what happened and how to prevent it, but they still want to do some more looking into it before they close everything up. But they also want to get back to flying. And what can help is they fly a bunch of Starlinks with a bunch of second stages, and they go, "Oh, okay, that's the problem." Like it's like the same thing with Starship. Is, well, we kind of think we know what happened on Flight 3, but let's fly Flight 4 and see what happens. And then you might get that piece of information and go, "Oh, okay, so that's how that happened." So that's kind of, it'll help them in the investigation to probably close it quicker because they'll be able to fly. And of course, they'll just be able to get back to flight. So,
yeah, because the grounding definitely would impact SpaceX's cadence for this year and could impact them reaching their target of launches. But if they can return to flight with their own internal missions with Starlinks, where they aren't risking any sort of customer payload, that could definitely be helpful. Yeah, so here is that full statement from the FAA. If you want to give that a look.
It's basically the same as the statement we got after Flight 4 of Starship, right? Like, SpaceX is asking for a determination of public safety so they can continue to fly while the investigation is ongoing.
So you mean Flight 3, not 4?
Yeah, Flight 3. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah,
it all blurs together.
Yeah, eventually it does. It's basically the same statement. Now, I guess that poses the question: did the failure on the second stage cause the second stage to become uncontrollable, which then would lead it to re-enter in an uncontrolled manner in an uncontrolled area? If that's the case, then the FAA might not sign off on that. As with Flight 3 on Starship, Ship 28 was already re-entering, and it was already re-entering in the right location. However, this second stage, as far as I know, it's still up there, and it'll re-enter at some point, but they can't control on where. So, public safety determination wise, I don't know if the FAA will sign off on that. We'll just have to see.
I love that chat is still coming up with names for a bigger bay. 360 Bay, Crystal Bay, Live Another Bay, Extra Bay. I mean, of course it'll be Giga Bay, but it's fun to dream.
Oh, and you have just started another firestorm of those. We've got Starbay, because too many stars. Just add another star to it. Of course, if you have any more questions before we wrap, at NASASpaceflight in the chat, and we will try to get to them. Bacon Bay, that's a good one.
Bacon.
What, like Thunder Bay, Ontario? Is that what you're talking about? Huh?
So to get slightly back onto the rails, we had a question with Falcon 9 being grounded. That means Falcon Heavy can't fly as well, too, right?
Oh yeah. Good point.
Yes. Yeah, Falcon Heavy is also grounded until because it's same heritage, and also the side cores are Falcon 9, so yeah, it's grounded as well.
Nervous Europa Clipper noises.
Well,
And of course, it was
Use the
the
same
second stage that
Yeah.
we saw that issue on. Here we have Bideford. Thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Always great to see your name in the chat. And if you got one of those memberships, be sure to thank Bideford. Now, how long? The booster is pretty much just sitting outside the bay here. Jack, is this pretty normal for the operations? Does it tend to sit outside before it rolls the last tens of feet into the bay?
To quote the classic front fell off sketch, I'd like to stress that this is not normal. No, this is not normal. I'm super curious as to what they're doing here. Maybe they just need to move some stuff around the production site to make way for the booster. But yeah,
I can't quite tell. Is that a crane in the bay?
Yeah, that'll be a aerial work platform with crews on it. It looks like working on the tip of 30's nose cone there.
All right. And now we have some more support from Morton Van Vick. Thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Once again, if you got one of those memberships, be sure to thank Morton in the chat. So Tower 2 is going to have lighter arms during those flights, right? So is it possible, like you said, you think they're going to keep the tower for the first orbital launch mount and everything? Is it possible they'll switch out arms to a newer system there or anything like that? Are they able to do any of those upgrades as far as you know, Ryan?
Either they'll switch out the arms on Pad A, or they'll just cut them. They'll just cut the ends off at some point. My guess is they just haven't done it yet because it's going to take a little bit, and they got to hook up a crane to that section and cut it. Unless they want to remove the whole carriage and replace it with a newer upgraded one too. There's always that possibility. But I'd be kind of curious to see how they're gonna upgrade that. They'll either upgrade it or they'll just replace it. So.
All right. Well, not too much more is happening. It just has those couple feet to go, but we don't know how long that is going to take. So I want to thank both of you for being on. Jack, thank you for joining for this rollback stream.
You're not welcome.
Wow. Okay. Well,
hour and a half of my life I'll never get back. How dare you?
Oh,
No,
wow.
I'm kidding. Thank you, D. It was always a pleasure.
And just as we start to wrap up, we have booster 1058 with a €2 super chat. Falcon 9, quote, "I'm grounded. No, Mom, I don't deserve this." Thank you for the support. We also have, of course, Ryan Weber with me. Thank you for joining, Ryan.
It's a pleasure as always, D. I always love talking about Starship.
In the background, we had both Jay Keegan and Ryan Caton. Thank you both for operating this stream. I have been your host, D-Wise. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next time.
Is this the first stream you've hosted, like full on hosted?
Yeah, this is the thanks for stopping the outro. Yes, this
Yeah.
is the first full-on stream that I have hosted. I've been a piece of some other streams, but so thank you all for tuning in for my first full-on hosting experience, and I will see you next time.
And here we go.
We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Rolling up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside of speed off. Say nsf off. Off. It's orange! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! What is it?
Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?